What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Thought Leader Podcast, episode 10, double digits. I am your host, Dylan, and in this podcast, we interview past and current thought leaders in the spaces of health, wealth, and relationships in hopes of reaching past, current, and most importantly, aspiring thought leaders. Those that have a message in their heart, you might have a mastery in your mind, you're looking to get it out to the world, you're on the precipice, and it's time to get uncomfortable. What we want to do with this podcast is interview the thought leaders that we know and understand their story from start to wonky middles to where they're at now in hopes to inspire in you. Today, we're actually going to be speaking in the realm of health. Now we were saying mental health in a sense, right? Getting ready to potentially shift careers, a little bit of personal relationships. We're going to be talking about career titles. Are they important? When to know you're stuck, when to know it's time to potentially shift and go into your second act. And we're going to talk about all of that with one of my good friends and one of our clients, Shannon Russell. Shannon Russell, I'm excited to talk about this intro. Shannon Russell is a career transition coach, certified UMAP coach, writer, speaker, and host of her own podcast, the Second Act Success Career Podcast. Shannon helps women in unresolved careers pivot towards the second act career that produces a balanced life of abundance. She spent over 16 years as a television producer in New York City and Los Angeles, big cities, working for MTV, E, Yahoo, Pop Sugar, A&E, TLC, VH1, you name it. She then pivoted to open her own business running a Snapology franchise teaching children STEM education, which is dope, so she could spend more time and be present with her kids. Now, as a certified career business coach, Shannon supports women as they change careers, start a business, follow their creative passions to the fullest. Motto of Shannon's being produce your best life because you're a TV producer. I love that. Shannon's company, Second Act Success, allows her to share her journey and experience as television executive turned business owner to business owners and mom and more. Her mission is to motivate more women to make big moves in life, and she is doing that through her coaching practice, her podcast, which is amazing, her speaking engagements, and an upcoming book, which I'm excited to chat about. She lives at the beach, rub it in New Jersey with her husband, 2 boys, and Chow Chow Pup. Cute. Welcome to the Thought Leader Podcast, Shannon. That's an incredible background.
Oh, Dylan, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I am excited to chat with you, especially when it comes to your career path, right? I feel like a lot of people, it's this dream, big picture of like, I'm going to work at Los Angeles or New York City one day. You had that. And then he said, no, I want something more. I'm excited to learn about the story, the journey, but I'm going to start with the question I ask everybody. You're on the Thought Leader podcast. Thought leader, broad. Some might say woo-woo or vague. It's like a very subjective concept. I think it means something different to everybody. So you're a thought leader on the Thought Leader podcast. What does being a thought leader mean to you?
It means that to me, that if you have an experience in your life or something you've been through, something you've grown through, that you can take that experience and then go teach others. So
Hmm.
really just taking your experience and going out there and helping others with it, serving others.
Yeah, I think it's one to go through it, which at times can be super difficult. And then two, to say I'm willing to teach others. I think it's a
Mm.
lot of times now when people write books or when people get on that TEDx stage, they've went through something themselves and they're like, man, if only I would have learned these lessons, someone could
Yes,
help me.
exactly.
Um, okay, so let's start with the fun part. I love to know the beginning of stories. I think stories shape time and they shape history, right? I'm curious how your story began as a Hollywood screenwriter. So maybe if you could just take us to the beginning. What made you want to go into it? And how did you get the, quote unquote big break?
I wanted to be in television, work in Hollywood since I was a little girl. I saved up a California bank with, aluminum foil on like an old Cheetos can and just saved money and went to college for communications and film and got an internship at MTV in New York City. And that changed everything. I mean, I knew there was no other place I should land, but there. It's like everything that I worked for my entire life is to somehow be on a television set. And I got the opportunity to work at MTV right out of college in Manhattan, back when MTV was TRL, music, Times Square. So
Fun MTV.
on MTV, yeah, and I mean, the stories I could tell would be, we'd be here forever because
Mm.
it was incredible rock stars, music, travel, and then, yeah, so that was amazing, and then I went to Los Angeles and continued. I've been with MTV basically my whole career on and off, and then in LA, I just worked for a ton of other companies, entertainment news, reality, all of it, so, yeah, it was really amazing to be a producer on some really incredible sets.
So as a young kid, always wanting to do it, saving up the piggy bank, and then getting the big break with MTV in New York, you're like, no brainer. That's back with like, is that Carson Daly?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yep, we
that's
started around the same time, yeah.
yeah. What for you, like looking back at it, what was I'm sure it's a lot, but if you think the biggest takeaway from being able to be in this world, which I think a lot of people dream of, what was that big takeaway for you?
That you can do whatever you come up with as a little kid, that you can work towards it in some capacity. When I was really young, I thought I wanted to be on camera. And then I started realizing like, no, that's not what I want because I want to be able to write and I want to be able to direct and produce. And so behind the camera is what I wanted. And then to get there and be like, okay, like everything I worked for came up to this point, and then to surround yourself. I guess the biggest part was with people that are like you. Like I
Mhm.
found my people, right? These creatives that were into music and into television and wanted to do their best. And some of them, I mean, a lot of them are still my best friends to this day.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah.
being able to speak the same language about a similar passion with, like, a tribe of people has to be awesome, and especially when it produces something as big as MTV in the day. Like, I remember Real World Road Rules Challenge. I remember Carson Daly Total Request Live. I remember, like, the spring break things that they would do is like a concert that I would come home and get ready. Did you go to those?
I produced so many spring breaks.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
when you say produce, right? Like, were you full on behind it? Walk us through what you did when you were there. I'm sure you did a bunch of things because you worked with
Yeah.
a bunch of places, but what were like the main tasks or the main like the day to day?
Yeah, so producing is basically taking this idea that the studio or a production company might have and then bringing it to being something that you're watching on air. So it's everything from just figuring out what the show itself is going to be, going out and actually getting the talent and the hosts and figuring it out with other agents and publicists, picking a location, writing the script, shooting it. I mean, I was going through bars in Cancun with a camera, and I was like basically the same age as these kids on spring break. And I was like, hey, I've got to film you, or, directing these kids. And I've been on spring break with Fat Joe and Ludacris and just a ton of, celebrities too doing really crazy things. But you're filming it all and then you're coming back into a studio or an editing room and you're editing it and then you're, getting all the notes from the execs and it's going to air.
Well, how
So
big's your team?
oh gosh, back then, this was kind of pre-production companies. It was really like we were working for the studio.
Yeah.
So we'd have a team of maybe 4 or 5 people that were doing pre and post, and then when we were on set, it was maybe like 20, 30.
Wild. Because again,
Yeah.
the kid in me gets all giddy, right?
Yeah.
Hearing this of like you get to walk into a bar in Cancun and say, "Hey, we want to film this. Hey, I want to interview you," and then you get to go back and chop it all together. So now the tough question, because now I want to talk second act too. You're
Mhm.
in this.
Yeah.
What were those early signs, or what were the events? If we still look at this as a story, which you're used to doing, what were
Mhm.
those? What were those signs to say, "Hey, maybe I want to shift out of this dream job"?
You know what? There weren't too many until I had my first son, and I had my
Mhm.
first son in Los Angeles, and we ended up moving back to the East Coast, and I started working in New York City. And the commute was a lot. It was about a 2-hour commute, and it was just a lot. I was getting home and my son was already asleep, and it was
Mhm.
just and my husband was a television or is a television producer as well, so the 2 of us, we just weren't around. And I missed his first birthday, and it was all those things that started, kind of being those signals to me. I was at South by Southwest shooting this really cool concert for MTV, but I was missing his first birthday. Then I was
Mhm.
away somewhere else during the first Halloween. And so I started thinking about it. And a couple years later, I was pregnant with my second son, working in New York City. And I just had this aha moment of not that I didn't like my job because I loved it. And I'm
Mhm.
always there to say that this truly is what I always wanted to do. But there was something that clicked in me and I realized, okay, I can check the box. I did it. I accomplished it, but I can't do it anymore because now I'm going against what maybe my next dream job is, which is being a present mom. And
Mhm.
so that's where the shift kind of started for me. And I was, starting to think that maybe I could do something else.
Do you tend to see, because obviously your case is pretty big and drastic. You work with MTV and you're at South by Southwest. Do you tend to hear something similar with the women that you work with now? You said you work with mostly women. Like, what tend to be, let's say someone's listening in now and they're like starting to question, but they don't know why or what it is. Like, is it tend to be the similar signs when it comes to family, or how does someone know, hey, this might not be, I told myself this was my dream job growing up. I'm making what I want to be making. I'm doing everything on a resume that would sound incredible, but I don't think this is for me. How do they tend to notice that or know it's time?
It often tends to be actually coming from a place where they don't like their job. I've
Okay.
yet to find a client that comes kind of like where I was, from really enjoying it, but realizing it doesn't fit. So a lot of my clients will be in a position where they loved it up until the family comes, until they realize, okay, I have to take care of my elderly parents. I have to take care of my kids. Or all of a sudden, I'm at a place where I can't go any further. I can't go any higher up. I'm not as creative. It's just not as fulfilling. And you realize that there's got to be something more out there, that you can't do that until retirement. And so it really does come from a place where, okay, this isn't what it was when I started when I was 22, 23 years old.
And if you were to give them advice, I'm also curious, maybe your own story here. The act to leave has to be like the hardest part. So I guess for you, I know why you decided to leave. Like, what's the process of being like drawing the line in the sand? What's the lead up to it to then be able to say one day, you know what, I'm done.
For me, it was quite different. It was really like a sign from the universe because my show was canceled when I was on maternity leave.
Mm.
So it left me, and television is very much, the whole entertainment industry is very gig based. So
Mhm.
you get a job from someone else. It's freelance, jumping from jobs. So I was sitting there saying, do I call someone and get my next job, or do I just use this as a sign to figure it out? So I chose it as a sign to just not pick up the phone and get that next job and make my second act transition. Whereas a lot of other people that I deal with and a lot of my clients, I want them, if they have a job and they have a paycheck, they're in the best place because they can start planning their second act while they're getting that income coming in. So you can kind of be creating that path while you're in a safe place. So you're not going in, quitting Jerry Maguire style, and then ending up like causing your family all this stress and life's in disarray. So you can plan it piece by piece to get to where you want to go.
Smart, because a lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I hear second act. I got to burn the boats, right? It's time." Like one day you walk in and I've had enough of this. And then you go home and everyone sees it in the movies. They're like, "What the hell did I just do?" For
Yeah.
you, it's, "Hey, let's slowly start to plan this out." So you give yourself a runway. Um, when do you know it's time to then leave the runway, if that makes sense?
I always say that it goes down back to your why. So,
Yeah.
why do you want this change? Because you don't want to jump from where you are, where you're miserable, to something else that looks great, a shiny object, and then you end up miserable there as well. So, it's really kind of doing different exercises to get to your why. Why do you want this change? What is it you want to move towards? And if you're going to move, I'm big on non negotiables. So, really getting in touch with yourself and realizing, well, if I'm making a change, I don't want to go to another job that has no flexibility, or that I can't be at home at 3 o'clock to pick up the kids from the bus, or, coming up with what it is that you need in your life at this point at that next role. And then you want to kind of work towards that. So I think if you're doing that work ahead of time, you're reason to step off that runway and move towards your next act is when you feel the most confident. You've done your research ahead of time. You've started thinking ahead. Maybe you've done some reach outs, gone on some interviews, updated your resume, and then it's time. You'll know when it's time.
The other thing that comes out of it too is like understanding your priorities, whatever that is in the second life, right? Because for you, it's come and work from home, be with the kids, you have your podcast, you have your business to help other people do it. But not everyone's going to leave the gig to do that as their second act. It might be taking a job that is more in alignment with their values, more in alignment with their why. So understanding those priorities as you make the shift, super interesting. Um, and then they do it. Like it's not always perfect. What do you think? I'm curious, one for you. What was the hardest part of leaving the dream gig? And what do you think the hardest part is if it's different for, other women and men to do the same thing?
I think a lot of it is the same. It comes down to career identity. And a lot of us, choose that career path when we're leaving school and we just think we're going to ride it out until we retire. And we feel like our identity is wrapped up in who we are, what we do. And so for me, it was very much that case because my husband was in the entertainment industry. All of my friends were in the entertainment industry. And when I started talking to people about not getting that next job, there was concern like, okay, we have to have an intervention with Shannon. What is going on? What is making her not want to be here with us? And so it
Mhm.
was letting people know I'm still me. And I tell my clients that you can change. You are not your job title. And guess what? You can go back anytime. You can try something new. And if it doesn't work, you can go back and you're still that person. You still have that skill. So it's that mindset shift of realizing that what you do is all of your experiences and your skills and your accolades from all these years, and you're taking them with you to the second act, kind of building onto that lifelong resume, and you're going to be a better person for it. And you're not leaving anything behind. Is really just that you're moving forward in a great way.
Yeah, because that's so interesting, right? I remember when I was in sales for the longest time and I left to take my first job outside of sales. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm doing sales." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what do you feel career titles are?
I feel like it's for that chapter, for
Mhm.
what you're doing there. That is what you do. And if you've ever noticed, Dylan, if you go to a party or you meet somebody new, what's the first question they ask you? What do you
What do
do?
you do?
And it drives me crazy because I am not just a producer. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a business owner. I'm not just a career coach. I'm Shannon, right? Like there's so much else. So let's talk about other stuff. And so it's just, yeah, it's you're more than just that. So I think it's what you are doing actively, your action that you're doing every day to bring money into your family at that point in your life. But why not have a million titles and a million experiences?
Let's wave a magic. I love this, but I actually spoke about this exact concept in my book. Future author, by the way, Shannon Russell. Super excited to hear a little bit about what you would like that to be around. But my first book, The Happiness Gap, talks about how it's almost like when you meet somebody in an Uber, they're like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, that's such a boring way to start a conversation. So Dylan and Shannon play a game where Dylan gets to wave a magic wand. And we're in a world where no one says that's cringe or corny or whatever, woo woo. How would you like people at a party? Like, what do you feel that good first question should be?
Have you watched anything good lately? Maybe it's the
Oh,
producer in
yeah.
me, but yeah, like, let's talk about any good shows, any good games. Let's.
All right, I'll answer that question.
Yeah,
And
what's
this is
yours?
a plug. So if we could potentially get sponsored by Hulu, I'll take it. Shogun on Hulu. I don't know if you've heard. Oh my, it's
I
FX / Hulu.
Did it start yet? Everyone's talking about
Yeah,
it, yeah.
second episode in.
Ugh,
It's subtitled, which I am a huge anime you know this, I'm a huge anime
yep.
comic fan, so I'm used to the subs. It is still difficult, right? Because it's such a beautiful picture, and I love Japanese culture and Japanese history, so I wanna, like, be able to take all that in, but I'm still taking in the subtitles. It is worth it to read the subtitles, in my
Wow.
opinion, but incredible. What about you?
Yeah.
You watching anything good right now?
What am I wa I'm watching Traders. I'm a Big
Ooh,
Brother Traders fan. It's like a game it's a reality game show. That's what I'm
okay.
watching right now.
Okay, very, very nice.
Yeah,
And it's you and I that have, or your kids, One Piece fans, right?
One Piece. Yep. Anime is big in my house. Yeah. But see, Dylan, isn't this so much more fun to talk about
Yes.
than like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I'm smiling as you ask the question. I'm like, "Damn, this is good. I wish people would stop asking what I fucking do, when I meet them." What do you like? Because right there, right? Like, it's like your entertainment background helps even have a cool conversation like this. What do you think is
Mm.
the biggest thing you learn in the entertainment industry that helps you in the life of an entrepreneur to help other, women find their second act?
Hands down, it's being a people person, the communication, just the relationships that you have. I feel like in entertainment, it's all about relationships. You're not going to get your next job if you're not someone that someone wants to hang out with on set for 24 hours. So
Mhm.
just being that, having those relationships in TV led to me being able to open a franchise business that no one in New Jersey knew about, and I grew it through relationships. And then now with my coaching business, that's all I do is talk to clients and talk to people on my podcast. So relationships and the importance of those is definitely my biggest takeaway.
I love that. Yeah, and you said your second one that no one knew about being the Snapology in
Yes.
STEM. What fueled that, if you don't mind me asking? Wanting to go into it.
Yeah, I was home on maternity leave with my little one, so I had I guess, 4-year-old and almost one-year-old at the time,
Mhm.
and my 4-year-old just would build all day with Duplos and Magna-Tiles and anything, and it was the only time I could get, like, a second to myself, and I said, "You know what? There's gotta be something that is about children and learning and building, and I can be home with them, and I'm not commuting," and so I just there was something that just in my head, I was like, "I'm gonna create this myself." So I did. It was a leap of faith for sure.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
cool. I'm excited to learn more about some small tips that you have. Let's say there's a man or woman out there looking to change careers. Maybe small things they can start to do now. And then I'm very curious of why you got outside your comfort zone. But before we do that, ad read. What a great ad read placement, Dylan. Thought Leader Podcast is brought to you by, pause for effect, Thought Leader. Over the last 8 years, Thought Leader has made it a mission to help its coaching and consulting clients get their authentic message out to the world in hopes of reaching their own desired audience through the power of speaking and business building. With over 650 clients landing TED Talks, hundreds more speaking on virtual and physical stages around the world, starting their own podcasts, some of them. Thought Leader has perfected the art of delivering a top tier message. They also offer programs to build and scale your own high ticket program and authentically market and sell it to your target audience in order to build a sustainably scaled business. If you have a message in your heart or a mastery in your mind and you wish to share it with your desired audience, check out the link in the description below. There are links that you can click to watch webinars from Taylor, talks about the power of TEDx, talks about what you can do to start building a business, talks about how we can help and if we can help. Shannon, you've come into our Business Accelerator program. Super fun to work with you
Love
there.
it.
What for you has been the biggest takeaway in Business Accelerator?
That confidence piece, I think, and just really taking your message and what you have to offer and bringing it to people. I think you've really helped me with that for sure.
Awesome. Oh, you don't have to say it me. Business.
You
I
have,
love.
you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's also brought to you by Dylan. No, I think kind of coming back to people that speak your language. I love Business Accelerator for like a group of men and women that want to grow their business, but don't want to be like that slimy, like pitchy, super weird person that talks about what they're doing. It's like, here's how you can authentically talk about what you do, and the people that want to buy are going to buy. Um, you're one of them. It's a pretty cool tribe that we got. All right,
Yes.
though, let's talk about second act. I'd like to know a little bit more about second act. Someone's out there, they're thinking, they're like, I'm thinking about getting started. First off, why do you feel it's important? Because some people, I feel like they think about changing careers and then they never do, right? It's like we just kind of sit in, it sucks, but I guess I'll do it. Why do you think it's so important to actually act on it?
We get one life that we know of, and my big thing is check all the boxes. So you can stay miserable and that or complacent, or you can step out of that comfort zone and you can go towards something that you know will make your days more full and light you up. And I just think that's a no-brainer in a sense, or at least to try.
Mhm.
But you're right. I think there's definitely a minority of people that actually do pull the trigger and go towards their second act. But I want to motivate more people to try and know that it's not as hard as they might think it is.
Love that. And we've talked about some things that we can do, knowing your priorities, like high level runway. But for
Mhm.
someone that's in the beginning of it, they're like, I really don't think I fucking like this job. What are some of the first things you would go over with that person? Like, what are like the first 2 or 3 tips for them to start to make the shift?
It's it's basically writing down what it is that you do like, because we don't take the time to talk to ourselves and really look inwards and say, "Okay, what is it that I actually want to be doing?"
Mhm.
So, I'm a UMAP coach, and I do a UMAP assessment, which really gets to the deep of that. But if you don't wanna do that, just make a list of things that you like to do and would want to do in your second act. Make another list of things that you might be good at, but that you don't want to do moving forward. Your
Mhm.
absolute, like, I might be really good at numbers, but I don't want anything to do with budgets moving forward. And then really kind of look at those, make another list of all of your experience, your past jobs, your current, and see where that thread is. See what you could do with that past experience that aligns with the things that you like and doesn't have those things that you don't like, and then start thinking about what options you have. And it's when you start thinking about different options, you might create a list of 10 things, but you can start slowly researching them and crossing them off. So it's really getting to know you and what you want, making that list of your potential options, even if you're just dreaming really big,
Yep.
make that list and then start to slowly research each one. And you might find that you always thought you wanted to go into marketing, but once you research, you're like, nah, that's not me. I'm going to cross it off. And eventually you'll get to the thing that you might want to really try for, or a few things. And that's where you're working on it and you're getting that confidence up too that, maybe this is a possibility.
Man, I have other questions I want to ask, but I'm literally, if you see me look down, I'm actually taking notes. I'm like, whoa, cool. If I ever leave thought leader. No, but it's what I
So
like is it's like the power of baby steps.
yeah.
And it's like, I think we live in a society now where it's such like hyperbolic speech or superlatives of like, if I'm quitting, I do it now. But no, it's
Mhm.
it's the baby steps of first writing down
Yeah.
what am I good at and I like doing. Then it's writing down what am I good at, but I don't really want to do. I don't want to
Mhm.
be like, oh, Dylan's the analytics guy, so we're gonna have him do all this analytical work, or Dylan's the charismatic one, so he always has to do that if it drains my energy. So what am I good
Mhm.
at but don't want to do?
Yes.
Then give yourself time to list out, research, it's like this could take a month, just slowly, a couple of months, just slowly cross things off to really get honed in. But it's almost like if you don't take that first step, you're going to continue going back and saying, God, I hate this.
Yeah. And you're
Oh,
gonna stay where you are, so you can earn that paycheck and do your day to day, and I often say that it's hard to find time in the day. As a mom of 2 kids with 2 businesses, I know it's hard, but if you're working, most likely you have that half hour in the morning where you're just scrolling or
hmm.
drinking your coffee or tea, so you can utilize that time, you can utilize your lunch break when the kids go to bed or on your commute. There's time for 15 minutes of research here and there throughout your day if you really want to be dedicated and think about this further and move towards it.
Because a lot of times I like to end these interviews talking about why you decide to get uncomfortable and why you think most people don't, right? We're kind of touching on it though. Like the reason you decided to get uncomfortable is right there. You're saying, hey, I only have one life that I know of. I want to do what I love to do. And some people don't because they don't take time to remind themselves the why because life's busy. And it come home, it's like, I just need a break, turn on Shogun. Let me just watch this awesome show by Hulu.
Plug.
A plug again. Am I doing it? Is this what I do in the industry? Uh, what I guess my question for you is what can someone do quickly, simply to remind themselves that why or to get in touch with it? It might be a simple answer, but sometimes that's what we need to hear. Like for you, what is something you teach your clients that just of consistently keeping that why in front of them?
is to think about what they want almost their legacy to be, in a sense. Like, you don't
Mm,
want to have regrets at the end of the day, at the end of your life. So to say, did you have you always wanted to write a book? Have you
mhm,
always thought that maybe you'd be really good in this industry, or you've always wanted to be a teacher? What are those things? And just spend some time thinking about those, and enough to know if you can just cross it off. Like, okay, that's really not something that I'm going to be upset at the end of the day if I don't do. But just realize that, you're still that little boy or little girl and have big dreams. And just because we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, like, we can still have those dreams.
mhm.
And just to realize that, life isn't meant to just waddle through every day. Like, you want to make the most of it. And we're showing our children what their future can be. My kids don't remember when I was producing TV, nor do they
Mhm.
care when I tell them about stories. But, they know that I've been home to go to all of their things and to be present, and that they know I own these businesses and I help people. And that's important to me. I have a son who wants to be an actor and a doctor. He can do both, so just letting them know you can change at any time, any age.
If Scrubs ever does like a revamp new series, that would be him. Doctor, most medically accurate doctor show I've heard,
Right.
and you get to be an actor. For
Uh,
you, when I love the legacy piece, and I love you know me, anything thinking of the next generation and
mhm.
sparking the next generation lights me up. Leaving the legacy, w- for you, what do you do when you're starting to kind of dream? Do you like to write it out? Do you like to spend time kind of in silence in your house? Do you like to go out to dinner and talk about it? Like, when you think of your legacy crafting time, what is it to you?
It's writing, it's journaling, or writing for sure, and just creating. I feel like I'm a big reader, always reading, self-help books, self-improvement books, that kind of stuff, writing my own book, just um, wanting to leave that. I even think it's kind of cool having a podcast, which isn't anything big, but like, my kids will be able to listen to my voice
Hell
years
yeah.
and years from now, if God forbid I'm not here. Like, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, so just all of that, kind of the creative pieces of what I do, really just light me up. And journaling daily is a key thing I have to do as well to
So
stay
really writing, doing that
right.
daily, making that practice daily so it seeps into
Yes.
the subconscious, and then also
Yeah.
reading, staying consistent with reading.
Yes.
It's, I have, like, vision statements I'll do every once in a while, and then
Mm,
for me, because I don't like rereading vision statements or rewriting them all the time, I'll have an intentional day where I'll find a totem in my life that really harnesses that vision statement, and I keep that totem nearby me at all times. Every time I look, it allows me to step back into it, and I actually spend a lot of, like, time in the mornings in silence to be like,
mm.
"Okay, what's one thing I can do today that gets me closer to that legacy?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, even
Like
coming
that.
back to what you're talking about is, like, that one thing could be, I'm just gonna do a list of things I really fucking like doing and I'm good at.
Yeah.
Um, because it's, like, it's just the small, steps. Okay, I am curious, what's one of the things you brought up, it was in your intro, and I think you brought up twice now in this, is a book coming out.
Mm.
Very just high level. Is it you're looking to tell the story of what you learned in the, you know, producing industry and where you're at now, or do you see it maybe more of like a how-to for someone out there? Is it more memoir story, or is it more like how-to, or are we mixing them?
We're mixing them a little bit. It's more how to. It's second act success. The subtitle is a work in progress, but it's about, my story, kind of like the introduction of like where I got to where I am and leaving that one industry and now helping others. And then it's really how to do it, how
Mhm.
to transition, and then but I have a series of other ones. It's basically how to check all the boxes in leadership, how to check all the boxes in business, how to, so it's got that whole check all the boxes in your life kind of motto as
Love
well.
that. And for you, because you have a podcast, you're
Mhm.
doing it, right? What made you wanna do a book too? I
It's
love
been
books. You know I love books, but
I
what
do.
made you wanna do
We've
it?
had this talk, yeah. And I've always wanted to. It's just I've always thought I'd write fiction, actually. And as I was starting to write my first fiction book, I was like, well, this is silly. I might as well help promote my business and talk about my transition because everyone always asks about it, and my clients want to know how I got to this place. So I'm like, let me write that. That's a tool that people can use, just like all the books I have in my office that you can go to. I feel like a book is something you get to learn about somebody so much more and really go back to it whenever you want to. So I'm really excited, and I'm like, if this is happening, this is happening this year. So
Good.
I'm just, yeah.
You know, you already have a launch team member with me.
Thank you.
I'll tell everybody about this because we all know someone that is every time we hang out with them, they're bitching about what they do, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, read this book just to take those next steps. What if someone doesn't want to read? What if someone would rather take this bite-sized information via podcast or like quick blog or maybe a picture? Like, how do people follow you? Where is the best place that you are living for your social imprint right now?
Probably, well, my podcast for sure, Second Act Success Career Podcast. But I'm on Instagram at Second Act Success. I hang out there most of the time, and LinkedIn. But everything's really on my website, secondactsuccess.co. And there's links to everything. But
Yep.
yeah,
I'll put those in the description.
thank you.
This is incredible. Shannon, thank you so much for this. I always like to recap towards the end, like the notes that I'm looking down and taking. One, we appreciate having you on the show. This was awesome. Two, for the people that are listening to this and they're on the precipice of looking to get outside their comfort zone, potentially that comfort zone is my career title, which I think is my identity, or the next thing. Big things that I took away today is we only got one life that we know of. Important to act on it. Like understanding and taking time to know what you want your legacy to be for your kids or your kids' kids, or even the next generation if you don't have kids. And then the power of baby steps, the power of creating a runway for yourself and not having to burn all the boats in one day, but slowly work towards what you really want. And in doing so, consistently reminding yourself your why and what your priority should be to align yourself to that why. So fun, so knowledge giving. It was so cool to drink this in. Thank you so much for letting me learn from you. If you're watching, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment to your biggest thing that you took away from Shannon, or make fun of my beard in the comments below. We will see you next week on the Thought Leader Podcast, episode 11. Until then, y'all have a great week.